we're in chapter 11.
Yeah.
And I had just finished reading, we were going to go on with the votary of the Lotus Sutra's own karma, is the heading on page 1117. 117. Excuse me. Okay? But in order for, first of all, so does everybody remember what we're talking about? Anybody have the ability to just jump out there and say, oh, we were talking about why the votary experiences difficulties, and how many variables or reasons why does Nichiren give in this Gosho about why the votary receives difficulties or obstacles?
Validate.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to page 115.
To validate him being there, doing
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he's
no, but
doing.
yes, but there are three specific things he attributes to reality versus him being the votary. He's saying, if you go to page 115, because then I'm just going to then read the Gosho again and go right into it, and I'm going to read a lot tonight, so be prepared, all right?
In response.
Okay, so no, page 115, right here. At the very top, on the second column of page 115, he says, after citing examples, okay, from the Gosho, he's creating the predication for what is the answer to this question of why are you not receiving the protection that's promised in the Lotus Sutra if you're doing it the right way, right? So the Daishonin says, on 115, after citing examples of votaries persecuted in the past, Nichiren writes, if we consider the second part of your question, that is the heart of the matter, we must note the following points. He then offers a 3-point explanation as to why Lotus Sutra votaries come under fierce attack and do not receive the heavenly deity's protection, and why the perpetrators of the attacks do not suffer immediate punishment. The 3 points can be summarized as follows. First, votaries fail to receive protection from the heavenly deities when persecuted because they have incurred negative karma from slandering the law in their previous existences. Nichiren says that if the votaries do not possess such negative karma, then those who persecute them will indeed suffer immediate punishment. Okay? I've seen that be the case. I wasn't the one that was the pure one. Second, Ichkantikas, people of incorrigible disbelief, will suffer no immediate punishment even though they commit grave offenses in this life because they are already destined to fall into hell in their next existence. Okay, that's the second reason. Third, protection from the heavenly deities is not forthcoming because they have deserted the country on account of its widespread slander of the law. Okay, he says, let us consider these points one at a time based on the following statements by the Daishonin. And then I'm going to start reading the Gosho on page 116, and then I'll get into this week's reading on 117. But do you notice anything out of these three issues, these 3 points? What's the difference between them? Is there any specific difference between the first one, the second one, and the third one? Because what is the question again? The question is, why are you not receiving protection? And the other part of the question is, why are they not getting retribution? Right? So, first thing, has votaries failed to receive protection from the heavenly deities? Because they created the karma. Okay? That has to do with you. Right? Okay? Now, the second one is, Ichkantikas. Certainly, if you're a practitioner of the law, this doesn't refer to you as Ichkantikas. This refers to the people that oppose you. Okay? So this is an outside influence. The reason they don't get retribution is because they're already destined to fall into hell. That's like people like Heino Seimin. People like that continuously screwed with the Daishonin. Now, ultimately, they did end up. I mean, Heino Seimin fell off his horse and broke his neck, and people lost their heads, and all kinds of weird stuff happened years afterwards. But immediate negative punishment. All right? Do you understand? Okay, and so then what's the third one?
Protection.
It's protection. So one is karma, one is opposition, the other one is protection from Buddhist gods. Okay? But where do Buddhist gods actually emanate from?
Inside.
Our lives.
Yeah.
Right. They are not separate deities. They are not separate influences. They are not separate forces. At the time that Daishonin wrote this Gosho, though, of course, modern science didn't exist. And he still had to, as an expedient, describe things in the manner in which they had been understood all along. Do you understand? Okay. So that's why he's got all those god of the sun, the stars, the moon, Taishaku, all these things on the Gohonzon, the four heavenly kings, the sun goddess, Hachiman. All of that's up there because the people that object of devotion was left for are not people that are actual Ichinen sons and followers. Do you understand? That comes over a course of time, right? That comes from the process of embracing the Gohonzon and gaining the wisdom of the Buddha to perceive that those things are not outside of you, that they're part of your life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so he says, reading from the Gosho then, this would be from pages 279 and 280 of volume 1 of the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. It says, if we consider the second part of your question, we must note the following points. Those who do not commit the error of slandering the Lotus Sutra in their previous existences will become votaries of the Lotus Sutra in their present lives. If such persons should be subjected to persecution under a false charge of having committed worldly offenses, then those who persecute them ought to suffer some kind of immediate retribution. Now, what's he referring to there really? He's referring to the false charges that have just been brought up against him, okay, by Ryokan through Heino Seimin. That's the reason he's been summoned, okay? And that's when they said, did you really say all this stuff? And he said, everything except, yeah, I said stuff about cutting their heads off. Yeah. Okay, it should be like the case of the Asuras who shoot arrows at Chakra, or the Garuda birds that try to eat the dragon of Anattava Lake, but who both invariably suffer injury themselves instead. Yet Chintai says, the ills and pains I suffer at present, I Chintai, are all due to causes in the past. In other words, everything that I suffer is because of karma that I've made for myself. Okay? And he says, and the meritorious deeds that I do in my present life will be rewarded in the future. Okay? Likewise, now what did he say though? What did he say in that one sentence? The ills and pains I suffer at present, Tintai. The ills and pains I suffer at present are all due to causes in the past. And the meritorious deeds that I do in my present life will be rewarded in the future. What's he saying?
You can change.
The effects of past existences are what we experience in this life. The rewards that we create in this life are something that we experience in future life. Okay? So, he's saying, likewise, the contemplation on the Mind Ground Sutra states, if you want to understand the causes that existed in the past, look at the results as they are manifested in the present, and if you want to understand what results will be manifested in the future, look at the causes that exist in the present. And I've said that many, many times, and that really is the Buddha way to perceive life. It's not that mysterious. If you generally want to know, if you want to know what clothes you were wearing in your last life on Thursday the 28th of whatever year that might have been, that's ridiculous. But if you generally want to know what kind of existence did I have, if you want to know what that karma in the past was, all you have to do is look at right now. Right now reflects what kind of karma you had in the past. That's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing in this moment. And because you're doing all the things that the Daishonin is prescribing for you to do as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, or at least I'm encouraging you to, okay, then you can be assured that whatever you get out of the way in this lifetime is not something you'll have to deal with again. You'll start to fall into that first category. No bad slander. Everybody that opposes me does get their asses kicked immediately. Everything that I ask for from the standpoint of protection occurs in a great, fortunate way. You can see that in the Soka Gakkai today. There's a difference in the fortune level of different people.
Yes.
Okay? There's not one shoe that fits all in the practitioners, is there? Okay? You see all kinds of, some people, man, they're folks, they started companies and without a lot of opposition, they got rich, or they were whatever. They had tremendous fortune. I know people that started in Hollywood. Take a look at, what's that swashbuckler young man that's the member that spent time with President Cato? Orlando.
Yeah.
Orlando, he goes to Hollywood, he gets shakabuku. You know, I can think of several people that could say the same thing. Of course, there are people that attribute that to other philosophies that help lead them to that path of success. But the key is that what you need to understand as Nichiren Buddhists is what Nichiren Buddhism says. And so that's what I'm reading here. Again, Tentai, the Daishonin is quoting him because he agrees with me. He says, the ills and pains I suffer at present are all due to the causes in the past, and the meritorious deeds that I do in my present life will be rewarded in the future. Likewise, the contemplation on the Mind Ground Sutra states, if you want to understand the causes that existed in the past, look at the results as they are manifested in the present. And if you want to understand what results will be manifested in the future, look at the causes that exist in the present. The never disparaging chapter of the Lotus Sutra says, when his offenses had been wiped out, he attained the Buddha way. Okay? Which again acknowledges that never disparaging had karma, and that's what was making those people that he was trying to encourage throw stones and tiles at him, right? This indicates that Bodhisattva never disparaging was attacked with tiles and stones, I didn't know I was going to say that, because he had in the past committed the offense of slandering the Lotus Sutra. Next, we should note that persons who are inevitably destined to fall into hell in their next existence, even though they commit grave offenses in this life, will suffer no immediate punishment. The Ichkantikas are examples of this. Okay, he doesn't go any further explanation. Through these various similes, we can know that Ichkantikas of the most evil type will invariably fall into the hell of incessant suffering in their next life. Therefore, they do not suffer any immediate punishment in this life. They are like evil rulers of ancient China, King Qie of the Xie dynasty and King Chao of the Yin dynasty during their reigns. Heaven did not display any unusual manifestations as a warning. That was because their offenses were so grave that their dynasties were already destined to perish. Third, it would appear that the guardian deities have deserted this country. And this is probably one reason why offenders do not suffer any immediate punishment. In an age that slanders the law, guardian deities will take their leave, and the various heavenly gods will cease to lend their protection. That is why the votaries of the correct teaching do not receive any sign of divine favor, but, on the contrary, encounter severe difficulties. He says, that is why the votaries of the correct teaching do not receive any sign of divine favor, but, on the contrary, encounter severe difficulties. The Golden Light Sutra says, those who perform good deeds day by day languish and dwindle in number. We are living in an evil country and an evil age. I have discussed all of this in detail in my work entitled On Establishing the Correct Teaching for the Peace of the Land. Okay, so now we're going to go into this week's study. Everybody's with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now President Kate is going to talk about what that Daishonin has just discussed. He says, number one, of the three things, he draws them into 1, 2, 3, okay? First, the votary of the Lotus Sutra's own karma. Why do we experience difficulties in this lifetime was a question from a few weeks ago. Because of our own karma, okay? And the Daishonin refers to this as like karma from a past life, but I'm sure that you can think of things you've done in this lifetime that actually qualify as slander of the law. I know I have. So I never have to worry about what I did in my last lifetime. I've done enough in this lifetime that I already know from study, from the wisdom that I have now, I already know how much slander I slandered. So I can change it by facing the Gohonzon and doing Sankei. But that's why I face difficulties in my life right now, because of that karma. Doesn't mean I get a freebie just because I understand this premise. It means I should understand that Everything that's attacking me is something I'm getting rid of karmically, therefore I should rejoice. And secondly, everything that's attacking to me is bound to fail because I'm the Buddha. You can't beat me. Okay? So this is turning poison into medicine. I'm able to turn my negative karma from causes that I actually made myself into the amrita of the proof of the power of actual fact as far as faith is concerned. Okay? So, he says that Daishonin explains that even though Lotus Sutra says that those who harass the sutra's votaries will incur immediate punishment, it only refers to cases where the votaries have not slandered the Lotus Sutra in past existences. If the votaries have slandered the sutra in previous lifetimes, however, they will meet the persecution as retribution for that offense. Bodhisattva, never disparaging too, underwent great tribulations on account of his own past offenses. The sutra indicates that the four kinds of believers, monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, who violently attacked him did not receive obvious punishment until after his offenses had been wiped out. Okay? So, the law of cause and effect is central to Buddhism. And everybody understands that, right? It's the whole premise. Causality. Nichiren thus cites the famous words of the Contemplation on the Mind Ground Sutra. If you want to understand the causes that existed in the past, look at the results as they are manifested in the present. And if you want to understand what results will be manifested in the future, look at the causes that exist in the present. Present effects are due to karmic causes from the past. I'll say it again. Present effects are due to karmic causes from the past. But the causes we make in the present give rise to the effects we will experience in the future. It is now, he doesn't say lifetimes, does he?
No.
He doesn't say lifetimes. He's just talking about the three realms of existence, which are past, present, and future. And there's no delineation. It's a moment by moment process. You know, the present is a moment. Okay? It's something that goes by so quickly cannot be measured. It's gone again. It recedes into the past. Prior to that, it was parked in the future. Do you understand? They're all constantly changing form. No moment stays the same. No, okay, unless it goes into the past, right? So, but the causes we make in the present give rise to the effects we will experience in the future. It is always the present that counts. This is the point. All right? Because of that premise, because of that theory, that theoretical construct of reality, okay, this moment is always the opening to every change we want to acquire. It's just a matter of making the causes to continue on and cross through that threshold. He says, in fact, the Daishonin emphasizes that no matter, it is always the present that counts. While the causes we have made in past lifetimes have contributed to shaping our present, what we do in the present moment decides our future. In fact, the Daishonin emphasizes that no matter what karmic causes we have made in the past, through the causes we make in the present, we can achieve a brilliant future. Here we find the true worth of Nichiren Buddhism. It's the simultaneity of cause and effect is a potentiality of each moment. Okay, so you can change past causes instantaneously through the manifestation of the 10th world through actuation and sanzen, right? All right, so hence we find the true worth of Nichiren Buddhism. In explaining karma, Nichiren's purpose is always to show that we can definitely transform it. Now, this was the buzzword that all of a sudden made me went, oh, shoot, I already just now had a whole big thing where I talked to the camera about the question of what does it mean to transform one's karma? What's he going to say here? Because I looked it up, I couldn't find it. Now, a paragraph later, he's talking about we can definitely transform it. Okay? Now, first I had did I give the right answer? But I didn't give the right answer. But he's got to be very careful, and he's going to parse it out over a bunch of paragraphs so that people that are not at your level can understand what he's saying. But ultimately, he's going to get to the same point that I gave you, which made me happy. He says, we will delve into Nichiren's theory of karma in detail on another occasion. This discussion is simply to confirm his point that the causes for encountering great persecution need to be sought within the individual votary's own life. Do you understand that? That says be responsible for you, okay? Because that's the only responsibility you actually have. If you're responsible for yourself, everyone else that you're supposed to be responsible for will be attracted to you. You have to worry about finding them. Okay? They will appear. Okay? That's dependent origination. That's the mentor and disciple relationship. Okay? So he says, we will delve into Nietzsche's theory of karma in detail on another occasion. Look forward to that. This discussion is simply to confirm his point that the causes for encountering great persecution need to be sought within the individual votary's own life. So that means if you're experiencing it, you must query the Gohonzon with faith and daimoku if you're going to get to the bottom of that true answer.
You mean to find the answer?
To find the answer only exists with you. There is no answer some other person can divine for you because they didn't live your life, did they? No. So they don't have a. They're totally bullshitting if they say they know, but you know. Just like I just talked about myself a minute ago. I know. Okay? I know how many times I've missed Gongyo. I know so many things about me that nobody else knows. Nobody else's business to know. But when I encounter persecution or difficulty and I'm wondering why in the hell is my life the way it is, I should look no further than myself. And that's not a mystery to me. And that's what he's trying to create as an understanding for you. Because otherwise you're going to think, Gohonzon's not listening. Gohonzon's not answering me. Gohonzon's outside of me. And that ain't it. That's why it's this way. It's this way because the Gohonzon is not outside of you. Do you understand? Okay, so he says, this perspective is integral to the current concept of transforming karma. So what's he saying there too? He's saying this perspective, that this is you and you only, is necessary for you to overcome and ascertain the question and have joy. Replace the suffering.
Yes.
Turn the poison into medicine in your own life. Do you understand? He's saying you must have this perspective, this understanding of how to view life based on Nietzsche telling you how to view life, and Daisaku Ikeda then embellishing what he's written so that it's understandable. You must accept this understanding. That's the perspective. Is this your perspective? No, this is a perspective that's being given to you, right? This is a teaching. This is wisdom being shared. This is Buddha wisdom being shared. But if you don't accept it, if you insist, God damn it, I haven't done anything. Excuse me.
Sorry.
It's my fault.
All right.
Try to
People are-
refrain
No
from
problem.
doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll hold it.
Again, can you get it to Tulsa?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still recording.
I'm so sorry
No
to those
problem.
of you that are watching on Facebook. But that's the point. All right? I'll try not to be so demonstrative.
No problem. No,
Slandering the Lotus Sutra is actually an act of fundamental evil that arises from people's fundamental darkness or ignorance. Now, what did that just say? Slandering the Lotus Sutra is actually an act of fundamental evil that arises from fundamental darkness or ignorance. So we do these things because we don't realize the true nature of our life. Okay? Or we doubt the true nature of our life. And at that moment, our life is reflecting the life condition of one who has obscured the Buddha eye. Right? So we make those causes. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying we create that evil. We may not view ourselves as evil. That's kind of like overboard, isn't it? I mean, evil? But no, what he's saying is, yes, it is. Fundamentally, we must ascribe it to being evil because it negates our Buddha nature. There is nothing more, anything that negates our Buddha nature is evil. Okay? So it might not be a nice word to use in association with ourselves, but fundamentally, it's evil in our own lives that creates the difficulty that we're talking about. That wasn't we did good things and got bad results. Okay? We did things that obscured our Buddha nature, created ignorance of our Buddha nature. those things then have to be labeled as evil things. Do you understand? There is nothing more evil than that which obscures the Buddha nature. Don't you understand?
Yes.
What's the basis of karma? It's slander of the law. It's not about sleeping with your husband's spouse. It's not about cheating on a test. It's about this kind of karma. Do you understand? It's not secular right and wrong. That's the topsy-turvy right and wrong of the 9 worlds. This is the foundational aspect of life that creates suffering or joy. Okay? Because this is a wisdom that creates joy instead of suffering. It doesn't even require a change of circumstance. Do you understand? Do you follow?
Yes.
You're going to be living in the same reality of what you're experiencing, but it's not experienced the same or viewed the same. All right?
Right.
The inability to perceive it correctly would be evil, to hold you back and make you suffer. Right? So let me start again. That second to the last paragraph on 117. Slandering the Lotus Sutra is actually an act of fundamental evil that arises from people's fundamental darkness or ignorance. There is no greater offense a human being can commit than denying the fundamental Buddha nature inherent in all people's lives, than slandering the Lotus Sutra. The same process is in your own life, right?
Yeah.
The teaching that enables us to manifest this Buddha nature and those who spread it. Do you understand how complicated this issue is? I'll read it straight through again. Slandering the Lotus Sutra is actually an act of fundamental evil that arises from people's fundamental darkness or ignorance. There is no greater offense a human being can commit than denying the fundamental Buddha nature inherent in all people's lives, than slandering the Lotus Sutra, the teaching that enables us to manifest this Buddha nature and those who spread it. Does everybody understand that paragraph?
Yes.
All right, then he goes on to say, fundamental darkness, the source of slander of the law, is the root of all negative karma. Do you understand why I'm emphasizing this? Because these are big sweeping clarities. All negative karma, all fundamental, all opposition in our life. Let me read that and then I'll read it straight through again. Okay. Fundamental darkness, the source of slander of the law, is the root of all negative karma. By winning over our fundamental darkness in this lifetime through faith in the mystic law, we can break free of the cycle of transmigration in the evil paths and move into a cycle of transmigration in the paths of good based on the mystic law. This is the principle of transforming one's karma. So that's exactly what I said, isn't it? All right. So transforming one's karma is actually leaving the realm of those that exist in the 9 worlds and entering the realm of Buddha. Life and death in the realm of Buddhahood. Transmigration in the realm of Buddhahood. Do you understand? That's what he just said again. So let me read it straight through one more time. Make sure everybody's with me. Slandering, because again, we sometimes don't view certain things as evil causes. They are actually evil causes because you're not thinking in a Buddha way about what you're doing. You're thinking about it only in your own little indivisible life way. And you're not thinking about the responsibility of the vow you've taken and the fact that you're now turning your back on that vow every time you do those things. You are slandering, you are creating evil. You create evil, you will get retribution. When you get retribution, don't go, shit, the Gohanzen's not working.
Yeah.
Go, cool, let me overcome it. I'm going to kick its ass now. This is awesome. I'm going to get rid of this. That one's not going to follow me into my next lifetime. This is my great good fortune. Okay?
Yes.
So, in other words, the foolish, what's he says? The foolish, the foolish something, while the wise rejoice. Remember that's also in here, the foolish freak out or whatever it is.
We know Chinese.
Yeah, you know the Chinese, okay. While the wise rejoice. The wise rejoice part is the wisdom of the Buddha.
Yes.
Knowing that I'm overcoming an evil aspect of my previous existence as an entity. Okay? As a karmic influence, not as an entity. All right, so I'll read it again straight through because now we do all understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, clearly. Slandering the Lotus Sutra, second paragraph on 117, second column, the second from the bottom. Slandering the Lotus Sutra is actually an act of fundamental evil that arises from people's fundamental darkness or ignorance. There is no greater offense a human being can commit than denying the fundamental Buddha nature inherent in all people's lives, than slandering the Lotus Sutra, the teaching that enables us to manifest this Buddha nature, and those who spread it. Fundamental darkness, the source of slander of the law, is the root of all negative karma. By winning over our fundamental darkness in this lifetime through faith, by accepting we did this to us in the mystic law, we can break free of the cycle of transmigration in the evil paths, which are the 6 and the 9 actually, right? Because you're cut off from Buddhahood, and move into a cycle of transmigration in the paths of good based on the mystic law. This is the principle of transforming one's karma. All right? On the matter of punishment, top of page 118, which might also be considered difficulties, I guess, okay, based on the questions we had a couple weeks ago. On the matter of punishment, Nichiren explains that persecutions of those votaries who are free of negative karma will in fact incur immediate retribution. Notably, this punishment is not meted out by some external agent like a deity. Rather, it is the natural outcome of a person's own actions that slanders the votary and occurs in accord with the law of cause and effect. The Buddhist concept of punishment is thus retribution based on the law. Now, you've got a perplexed look on your face, Zoe. Why?
So, which means like...
Because what this actually is saying is what's on the Gohonzon I've pointed out to you on multiple occasions. It says, may those who vex or trouble those who are practitioners of the law have their heads split in 7 pieces.
Yes.
Okay? On the other side, it says, those who support and protect the law, may they have great good fortune exceeding the 10 honorable titles. Okay? They're bookends.
Yes.
All right? So what is he saying here? He's saying, the Buddhist concept of punishment is thus retribution based on the law. So, let me go to the top of the paragraph. On the matter of punishment, Nichiren explains that persecutors of those votaries who are free of negative karma, okay, will in fact incur immediate retribution. So if you're free of negative karma, people that do things to you will immediately, you'll be like a hot ow! Okay? They'll see an immediate effect. All right? Notably, this punishment, but notably, he's saying, what he wants you to understand is that this is not the Buddhist gods that just went out and said, I'm going to get that son bitch. He gave him a hard time. He's a votary of Lotus Sutra. I'm going to punish him. No. Okay? He's saying, notably, this punishment is not meted out by some external agent like a deity. It's not something outside the realm of the reality. Okay? All it is their karma coming back because they've committed evil. You understand? We just qualified to oppose the votary is an act of evil. Correct? Or to slander the law is an act of evil. Okay? When those people slander you, they're slandering the law. Correct? They're creating an act of evil. Okay? Their punishment is not punishment coming from you. It's coming from their act of evil, a cause they have made themselves. You have nothing to do with their retribution. You're not even responsible for it. You were just an object that reflected back their karma at them for making the causes that they've made. That's why we are careful not to do those things. Right? We have the wisdom to understand. Ooh, I should shut my mouth right now because I must be full of shit if I'm going to slander somebody that I know practices correctly. Or is trying to practice correctly. Right? Right? Okay, so the Buddhist concept of punishment is thus retribution based on this law. The Buddhist concept of punishment is not punishment. It's cause and effect. Do you understand? It's not punishment like, I'm going to get those guys. Those are the bad ones. It's cause and effect. When you make good causes, good things happen. When you make bad causes, bad things happen. And there's not somebody that's doing either one of those things. There's not a rewarder or a punisher. Do you understand?
Yes.
There's only the 10 worlds. Which one are you in? Which ones are you stuck in? And how do you get to the ones you want to be in? Right? On the other hand, even though persecutions of those votaries guilty of past slander of the law will not receive immediate punishment, this doesn't mean they get off scot-free. It simply means that their punishment doesn't manifest right away. Do you understand? Okay? Like the Ichkantikas and so forth. They still incur definite, inconspicuous punishment. This becomes clear in connection with the next point regarding Ichkantikas. Ichkantikas who are destined to fall into hell. The Daishonin explains that Ichkantikas who are destined, and the Ichkantikas, for everybody that knows it, I know you're incorrigible disbelievers. They just absolutely do refuse. They have created karma that obscures their capacity to be able to see clearly. The Daishonin explains that Ichkantikas who are destined to fall into hell in their next lifetime do not experience immediate punishment. He writes, we should note that persons who are invariably destined to fall into hell in their next existences, even though they commit grave offenses in this life, will suffer no immediate punishment. The Ichkantikas are examples of this. As this indicates, when persecutors are already destined to fall into the hell of incessant suffering, they do not receive immediate visible retribution for their deeds. In Letter to Horin, which I believe I've read to you, it's a fabulous Gosho. In Letter to Horin, the Daishonin writes of such people, they are like men who have already been sentenced to execution and are awaiting their turn in prison. While they are in prison, regardless of what evil acts they may commit, they will receive no further punishment other than the death sentence already passed upon them. Do you understand the logic here? This is so cool. It makes so much sense. Are you following what I'm saying? I'll start from the bottom of 118 again. As this indicates, when persecutors, people that persecute us, those evil people, all right, that are of the three powerful enemies, right? As this indicates, when persecutors are already destined to fall into the hell of incessant suffering, they do not receive immediate visible retribution for their deeds. In Letter to Horin, the Daishonin writes of such people, and he says, they are like men who have already been sentenced to execution and are awaiting their turn in prison. While they are in prison, regardless of what evil acts they may commit, they will receive no further punishment other than the death sentence already passed upon them. Do you understand? You go to prison for committing a capital crime. You're in there. You're sentenced to execution. You kill another prisoner. Even if they try you for it, you can only get the death sentence again. Do you understand? There's no further punishment than the one that's already been meted out, okay? So you're just waiting for the same thing.
Yeah.
However, with regard to people who are eventually to be released, not the people in there for a death sentence, okay? However, with regard to people who are eventually to be released, if they commit evil acts in prison, they will receive warnings or additional time in the hole, whatever. But they won't be given the death sentence. You understand?
Yes.
In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren, citing the Nirvana Sutra, points out that while even a person of considerable evil may, through various influences, have a change of heart and come to regret his earlier actions, in the case of Ichkantikas, nothing of this kind takes place. Okay? So a person of incorrigible disbelief is someone who has cut themselves off from that capacity to redeem themselves independently. Do you understand? They can only attain Buddhahood through a poison drum relationship, which is what they've done here. You understand? Even though they will suffer the retribution for these causes, they've already created a relationship with Lotus Sutra. They will attain Buddhahood. Understand that about them. Okay? When he talks about them going to hell, they will not go to hell forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. No incessant suffering. No. All right? Ichkantikas are people whose lives are so deeply steeped in disbelief and slander of the law that they have no regret or remorse for their actions. Of course, even Ichkantikas possess the innate Buddha nature, the direct cause for attaining the state of Buddhahood. Lacking the faith necessary for manifesting it, however, they cannot break through the darkness that shrouds their highest inner potential. As a result, they behave as if they did not possess the Buddha nature at all. Evil, instead, filling their minds and their actions. They are like people who wander around in the dark even though the sun is shining, because their own lives are veiled in heavy clouds that block out any light. The benighted cannot believe that the Buddha nature exists in their own lives and in those of others. Numb to that fact, that they are committing slander of the law. Numb to the fact that they are committing slander of the law, they advance inexorably toward the abyss of hell. Okay? Again, very important sentence. Do you understand what he's saying there? Numb to the fact that they are committing slander of the law. So these aren't people that are going, woo-hoo, let's be evil. Okay? These are people, these are people that have cut off the wisdom to perceive correct and incorrect. All right? They're numb to the fact that they're creating evil. All right? Numb to the fact that they are committing slander of the law. And again, slander of the law is something very specific. Like I said, to sleep with your in-law's spouse is not slander of the law. It may be completely inappropriate, and I'm not suggesting anyone do it. But I am qualifying. It is not slander of the law. To cheat on a test is completely wrong. To steal from another person is completely wrong. It is not slander of the law. Please understand this. These are not acts that govern your karma for the kinds of lifetime after lifetime issue that we're talking about. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's how long it took to blow off that kind of stuff, frankly speaking. That's what the Gosho says. Okay? One Daimoku. All right? So this is what it was. Why is he talking about this? This is really that hard, right? Yep. Yeah, it is. To understand it correctly is very hard. Because I just saw you all go, whoo, when I just made the clarification that I made. But without that clarification, what he's saying is not being understood correctly. Okay? So, where am I? This indicates that, pardon me, where? Pointed out. Letter to Horn, I'm all the way over on page 119. Where am I? Okay. Also, while such offenders may not receive immediate punishment, they are invariably racked by a fundamental fear and anxiety arising from their inability to believe in their own Buddha nature. The anxiety and fear gnaw at them, steadily destroying their lives. So even when their retribution is not immediately visible, such people are clearly already suffering inconspicuous punishment. Therefore, Nichiren declares people who despise the votaries of the Lotus Sutra seem to be free from punishment at first, but eventually they are all doomed to fall. What is that also saying? You may view their retribution only from the physical reality of, like, did they lose something? But their daily life condition, that is a punishment. When you live in hell as your fundamental life condition of the 10 worlds, that is punishment. That's not just ignorance. Okay? That's what he's saying. People who despise the votaries of the Lotus Sutra seem to be free from punishment because you didn't see them with a broken arm or in a car wreck or losing their job or being disfigured in an accident or some shit you're looking for. You're looking for, like, yeah. Okay? The real punishment, the most severe punishment, is to never know happiness. There is no greater punishment than to be locked in unhappiness. He says, but eventually they are all doomed to fall. People who despise the votaries of Lotus Sutra seem to be free from punishment at first, but eventually they are all doomed to fall. When their life condition can no longer raise above the evil paths, when they know no solace, no joy, no happiness, because their lives are constantly filled with negativity and anger. Okay? That's a terrible, terrible karma. That is true punishment. 3, heavenly deities abandon the land. Third, we have the problem of the departure of the heavenly deities, and he'll qualify this in a way to make you grasp it. The Daishonin writes, it would appear that the guardian deities have deserted this country, and this is probably one reason why offenders do not suffer any immediate punishment. In an age that slanders the law, this is on page 119, the middle of the first column, 3, guardian deities will take their leave, and the various heavenly gods will cease to lend their protection. That is why the votaries of the correct teaching do not receive any sign of divine favor, but on the contrary encounter severe difficulties. Again, this is from the Gosho. This passage refers to the concept of benevolent deities ascending to the heavens. Okay? Do you want me to go to 21 and read that? I should probably do that. Chapter 12.21. Okay, this was a common concept. So again, don't forget that the Nichiren is writing to 13th century Japanese followers, right? He's saying this was a common concept found in such sutras. When it says here, where was I just...
The third paragraph of page 119.
Yes, this concept of benevolent deities ascending to the heavens. That's what I'm going to give you the description of. This was a common concept. This is on the notes, 201. You have to go back to 201. The way the notes are set up on this is that they're in the very back of the book, broken up by chapter. Okay, page 201.21. This was a common concept found in such sutras as the Golden Light Sutra, the Great Collection of Sutras, the Benevolent King Sutra, and the Medicine Master Sutra. All sutras which you've seen, the Daishonin, point to aspects of the perfect teaching in. He's quoted these sutras, right? When he's quoting any sutra that's a provisional teaching, he's quoting the perfect teaching hidden within that provisional teaching. Do you understand? Right? All right. You're with me?
Yes.
Okay, so... in the rationale for writing on establishing the correct teaching for the peace of the land, the Daishonin also asserts, as a result, the people's pervasive slander of the law, the sun goddess, the great bodhisattva Hachiman, the gods of the 7 shrines of Sanyo, who guard and protect Mount Hei, as well as the other great benevolent deities who protect the different parts of the nation, could no longer taste the flavor of the law. Their power and brilliance waned, and they abandoned the country. Thus, the demons gained access to the country and brought about disasters and calamities. Now, the reason that I read that to you is for you to be able to understand what he's saying here when he talks about this is a concept. Okay? He says this passage refers to the concept of the benevolent deities ascending to the heaven. As the Daishonin explains, why aren't they here protecting us? Right? As votaries. In other words, deprived of their sustenance. What is the sutra that he just talked about? What does it say that all these deities live off of? What is their food?
Oh.
They're like little butterflies, and they go around to all these flowers, and they suck up this wat. They're like little fairies kind of things. The Amrita of the law. So when the law disappears, they sustain themselves from hearing the practitioners propagate the law. When the law is no longer propagated, they dwindle. Their food source, if you will. In other words, when I first started practicing 45 years ago, basically, why do we do Gongyo? We do it to feed the Buddhist gods. We're feeding the Buddhist gods. Okay? Have you ever heard that? Okay, yes. Where the sutra, the Lotus Sutra itself is what they sustain themselves on. But they don't exist as people in the 9 worlds, right?
I heard a similar thing in Christian. Yeah.
Yes. And again, this, as he just said, this is from a provisional teaching. This is an expedient means.
Yeah.
Okay? We already understand that these gods all exist in the life of the Buddha, correct?
Yeah.
That We are the source of this protection. Our relationship with the Gohonzon is the source of this protection. That's why he put all those things on the Gohonzon. Okay? But the concept already exists in Buddhism. And the question has come up. Nichiren, if you're the devotee of Lotus Sutra, why isn't your ass getting protected? He's coming up with all the good reasons that validate the truth. Okay? But he can only explain it in terms that are understandable. So he's got to pull out a concept that already exists. Do you understand? Okay, so let me go on then. This passage refers to the concept of benevolent deities ascending to the heavens. In other words, deprived of their sustenance, the flavor of the law, and I could go back to that same point on 22 and then read you that it's it's like the nectar or whatever. Here it is. Chapter 20, okay, point 22. The flavor of the law refers to the exquisite flavor of the correct teaching. It is said to be the only source of nourishment for the protective forces of the universe, the various Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and heavenly deities throughout the 10 directions, increasing their majesty and strength. So God, feed them, please, okay? Likened to ghee, the finest clarified butter, the highest of the 5 flavors, the Lotus Sutra is regarded as the supreme flavor of the law. How do they get their flavor of the law? From you practicing it. In the latter day, the sole flavor of the law that can strengthen these protective forces is what? The law for the latter day that leads all to attainment of Buddhahood equally. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the Nichiren Buddhism of soul. Now do you understand what I was trying to say without having to read the full explanation? So, everybody understands, right? There is no spoons full of flavor that's being fed to anybody. Nobody's literally eating anything, okay? We're talking about the concept of what is the environment filled with, evil or good. And that's what it reflects, right? In the absence of good, it's going to reflect evil. Now we've got to call that evil something. We've got to give it substance. Do you understand? 13th century Japan. Everybody's with the point I'm making now, right? Okay. Okay. Flavor of the law. Due to the widespread slander of the correct teaching, they abandon the country and return to their original homelands. Okay. Now, once again, provisional teaching. There's no other worlds. There's no Buddha land and then Bodhisattva land and then world of learning land and then world of realization land. You understand? Okay, there's no lands like this is referring to, but this is an expedient teaching. The Daishonin also speaks of this principle on establishing the correct teaching for the peace of the land, where he says, the people of today all turn their backs upon what is right. Right? That's an action, that's cause. Yes. Bad karma, right? To a person, they give their allegiance to evil. They give their allegiance to these things that are incorrect. This is the reason that the benevolent deities have abandoned the nation and departed together. That sages leave and do not return. The environment of the Sahe world is not at the time or the place or the teaching that it deserves to reflect that for the people that have the karma to live in the Sahe world at that time. Do you understand? Do you understand what a tremendous great fortune it is for us to live in this time when what happened in the 30s and 40s and 50s in Japan is already 40 or 50 years old, has been able to be ascertained, has been able to be actualized and created into a correct understanding? Really, it's much easier for me to read this to you after having it translated by Burton Watson, guarantee you, than if I was reading this in original Japanese or I was reading it without President Ikeda's interpretation at all. I'm just going to pick up 13th century Japan and I'm just going to start trying to riff off, what the Daishonin's real intent was. Yeah, right. Okay? So I don't have to do that. That is a reflection of the world that I live in based on the karma I created to be here at this time to live in this world as I live in it. Do you understand? Who did that for me?
No, mommy.
Me. Okay? That's what he's talking about. The people of today all turn their backs upon what is right. It's up to them to decide what is right. To a person, they give their allegiance to evil. This is the reason that the benevolent deities have abandoned the nation and departed together, that sages leave and do not return, and in their stead devils and demons come, and disasters and calamities occur. The departure of the heavenly deities means that they will no longer safeguard the votaries of the Lotus Sutra and punish slanderers of the law. As a result, the latter do not suffer immediate retribution for their offenses. Now, those are the three predications that Nichiren gave in the Gosho. Now, President Ikeda is going to expand a little bit further on what's been given in the Gosho in 13th century Japan into a more contemporary understanding for us all. How are we doing on time?
It's on 9.
It is already 9?
We can finish
Yeah.
it.
Oh, finish.
We can finish it.
I'm going to finish it, please.
Yeah.
The vow and practice to dedicate one's life to propagating the Lotus Sutra in the middle of page 119. As discussed in the opening of the eyes, Nichiren offers a 3-point explanation as to why votaries of the Lotus Sutra encounter persecution and why, moreover, those who harass them do not receive immediate punishment. Again, the 3 points are: 1, the votary in question has committed the offense of slandering the Lotus Sutra in a past existence. 2, each Kantika slandered the Lotus Sutra through their incorrigible disbelief, an offense that destines them to hell in their next existence. And 3, the heavenly deities abandon the land when it becomes rampant with slander of the correct teaching. Slander of the Lotus Sutra, which is synonymous with slander of the law or correct teaching, is thus the common denominator of all three. Right? That's the common thing. I mentioned the thing that makes them all different when we started, right? The common denominator is slander of the law. The various evils that befall a votary of the Lotus Sutra are all deeply related to the fundamental evil of slander of the law. This is because votaries practice the correct teaching or law. This practice, their practice, coupled with their active denunciation of slander, which you don't just kind of go, I know something you don't know, and I'll just keep my mouth shut. It means when you hear it, you call it out every time. Their practice, coupled with their active denunciation of slander, sparks a violent reaction from the fundamental darkness in the lives of each Kantikas, who then appear as the three powerful enemies and launch a fierce assault on the votaries. The struggle of votaries is a struggle to reform the realm of Buddhism in order to eradicate the evil slander of the law. Do you understand what he's saying that? What? The struggle of the votaries is a struggle to reform the realm of Buddhism in order to eradicate the evil slander of the law. It's to bring back the Amrita. It's to bring back the thing that sustains those Buddhist gods. It's to bring back a karmic reality that can be enjoyed by all. Right? Mm-hmm. Everyone gets to enjoy a peaceful earth, whether they're a believer or not. Kosen Rufu isn't like everybody chants, right? Yeah. It's enough people chant to influence the entirety. Yeah. The struggle of votaries is a struggle to reform the realm of Buddhism in order to eradicate the evil slander of the law. That's also to misunderstand the correct teaching, right? Mm. That is why votaries of the sutra are destined to suffer hardships resulting from the attacks that inevitably arise to hinder their efforts. Such difficulties, however, serve to forge and temper the votaries' lives, enabling them to expiate their slander of the Lotus Sutra from past lifetimes. Moreover, all their trials are for the cause of enabling people of an evil age to establish Buddhahood in their lives. Because the votaries wage such a struggle, they attain a vast state of life in which they can view difficulties as peaceful practices. And what is that? That's actually Ichiban Sanzen. When you look at your difficulties as an expression of yourself as the Buddha, which is what he's talking about, and accept those things as peaceful practices as the Daishonin has ascribed them to be, that's actual Ichiban Sanzen. For each Kantikas on the other, that's Mugiwashi. For each Kantikas on the other hand, persecuting the votaries of the Lotus Sutra causes the fundamental darkness in their lives to function even stronger. Their lives become utterly steeped in disbelief and slander of the Lotus Sutra, as a result of which they incur inconspicuous punishment that will lead them to fall into hell. They start to disbelieve. They start to blow off things. They start to create actions that are minor in the beginning, but start them on a slippery slope. Also, the influence of each Kantikas causes disbelief in the correct teaching and slander of the law to spread throughout the entire land. In other words, what they're saying affects other people's opinions, in turn causing the protective functions of the heavenly deities to vanish. Votaries of the Lotus Sutra, who nevertheless strive undeterred to overcome difficulties and persevere in propagating the correct teaching, can bring forth the world of Buddhahood in their own lives. That's actually Ichiban Sanzen. The votaries' struggle to propagate the mystic law is not only a struggle to transform their individual karma and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, but it also to establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land in order to revive the heavenly deities' functions and bring peace and security to society. Do you get it? Okay, get some Amrita on the table. Nichiren Buddhism get some good nectar on the table. Nichiren Buddhism forges fighting spirit. Both of the doubts we have been discussing. If Nichiren is a votary of the Lotus Sutra, why doesn't the heavenly deities lend him assistance? And why don't his attackers suffer immediate punishment? Spring from a passive view of Buddhist faith. Spring from a passive view of Buddhist faith, where people simply implore the heavenly deities for protection and wait fervently for it to arrive. That is not what we do, right? Okay. Nichiren answers these doubts with reason and logic. In other words, he offers theoretical proof. He proclaims the mystic law as the key to transforming karma and realizing a peaceful society, and therefore as the force that can activate even the heavenly deities who have disappeared from the land. Get it? Okay. He expresses this toward the end of the opening of the eyes in his great vow that begins with the lines, "This I will state, let the gods forsake me, let all persecutions assail me, still I will give my life for the sake of the law." When viewed in the light of the Daishonin's immense state of life as the one who embodies the three virtues, teacher, sovereign teacher and parent, of the latter day of the law, Nichiren Buddhism is not a teaching that laments the absence of protection from the heavenly deities. On the contrary, it seeks to receive the powerful functions of the heavenly deities throughout the country and realize an ideal society by actively working to establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land. What did he just say? I'll knock over the phone. He says, "We are the heavenly deities." He just said it. We are the heavenly deities. Let me read that again. When viewed in the light of the Daishonin's immense state of life, Buddha, as one who embodies the three virtues, sovereign, teacher, and parent, Buddha of the latter day of the law, Nichiren Buddhism is not a teaching that laments the protection from the heavenly deities. Damn it, they're not here because nobody fed them. On the contrary, it seeks to revive the powerful functions of the heavenly deities throughout the country and realize an ideal society by actively working to establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land. In that process, you become the heavenly deities that are being attracted. Right? You're what's bringing that protective influence back to those that have done nothing to bring it. You're the influence that changes the Sahe world. Right? You don't need gods. You are one. In my mind, I can hear the Daishonin calling out vigorously to his followers. If you are not going to, oh, this is great, because this is this is President Keita saying this, but he's saying it for Nichiren. In my mind, I can hear the Daishonin calling out vigorously to his followers. If you are not going to fight now, then when will you fight? My followers, stand up with courage. If you fight with the heart of the Lion King, you can expiate all past offenses and transform your karma. You can become the Buddha in your lifetime, in your present form. Let us lead to enlightenment, even the Ichkantikas, the people that have scorched their seed, who persecute us and help free humankind from fundamental darkness. Let us establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land and construct a world where all can live together happily and peacefully, regardless. We're not just saying just the ones that deserve to, just the ones that are like us. That isn't the goal of Kosen Rufu. The goal of Kosen Rufu is widespread propagation and the happiness of all living beings. It's not the desire for the suffering and punishment of those that disagree with us. That's karma. Nichiren Buddhism forges people's fighting spirit. This could be described as the essence of the opening of the eyes. Accordingly, on the fundamental level, the doubts about persecution and the lack of protection can only be resolved when we each stand up. So if you have any of these doubts, the only way they can be resolved is when you stand up with a great desire and vow for Kosen Rufu and dedicate our lives to spreading the Lotus Sutra with a spirit of not begrudging our life and of unselfish devotion to the propagation of the law. I'll read it again since I stepped all over my tongue. Accordingly, on the fundamental level, the doubts about persecution and the lack of protection can only be resolved when we each stand up with a great desire and vow for Kosen Rufu and dedicate our lives to spreading the Lotus Sutra with the spirit of not begrudging one's life and of unselfish devotion to the propagation of the law. I'll get back to that. The Daishonin's treatise reveals the true meaning of the opening of the eyes because it awakens all people to the genuine Buddhist spirit and human path of living true to the law based on a personal vow. But when he talks about not begrudging one's life and the unselfish devotion to the propagation of the law, and joined with the question about doubts about persecution and lack of protection, what is he saying? Accordingly, on the fundamental level, the doubts about persecution and the lack of protection, which is what was going on when I got that question, right? That was, I wonder how this could be. I got this question. We don't consider that as a lack of faith, but because we're questioning something rather than accepting it, we don't need to just accept. It's okay to question. But he's saying it can only be resolved. When you have those kinds of questions, they can only be resolved through faith and action, is what he's actually saying. And that faith and action involves the vow of the Bodhisattva, which means the only way you can get rid of your questions about this is to live through them by not begrudging your lives and having doubts, and by being the Buddha and unselfishly devoting yourself to the propagation of law, not based on a payback. It's not like, oh, I didn't get any benefit this week. Screw it, I'm not telling anybody about that. Okay? It doesn't work that way. This isn't like a time card that we slot in and slot out. You know, the Daishonin is even going so far to say, it shouldn't be whether you get any benefit. It should not be about whether you receive benefit. Benefit is a natural outflow of the good causes you're making. It should be because you're your desire to be the Buddha. Not about benefits. Common mortals think of benefits. Buddhists don't think of benefits.
Yes.
They don't consider benefits. They consider their life and the rest of the Sahe realm. Okay? Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.